Tonight we are learning more about a woman found dead last week, months after being reported missing.
It started as just another ordinary day inside a small novelty store in Las Vegas, a shop known as Spycraft. The store sold unusual gadgets, tiny cameras, listening devices, tracking tools, and books you couldn't find anywhere else. It drew in curious customers who wanted to explore the strange world of spying equipment. But on that particular day, what should have been an uneventful afternoon took a horrifying turn. A woman working at the store with her husband walked toward the back, expecting nothing out of the ordinary. Instead, she stumbled across a sight that froze her in place. On the floor lay what looked, at first glance, like a mannequin. But mannequins don't bleed. Around the body was a dreadful red pool, the kind of sight that immediately tells you something has gone terribly wrong. The woman realized in an instant that this was no display. It was the lifeless body of another woman. The shock cut even deeper because the worker had seen the victim only hours earlier, browsing inside the very same store. Now that familiar face was motionless, surrounded by silence that felt heavier with every passing second. Fear rose in her chest as she tried to step back without screaming, the horror of the discovery pressing in on her. And then, as she backed away, she didn't bump into a shelf or a wall. She bumped into something else, someone else. The terror of that moment was overwhelming, because in that single step backward, she realized she was not alone with the body. The scene that unfolded inside Spycraft that day would soon unravel into one of the most disturbing cases Las Vegas had ever seen. Who was Ginger before her name became tied to tragedy? Ginger Rios was known for her bright spirit and boundless energy. Born in Huntridge, Las Vegas, to parents Denise and George Rios, Ginger grew up in a close and loving family. She also had a sister named Daniela who often described Ginger as the spark in any room she entered. From the time she was a little girl, Ginger dreamed big. She told her mother she would one day become Miss Las Vegas. She wanted to be on stage to sing, dance, and entertain. Her passion for music and performing was obvious to everyone who knew her. Ginger wasn't just talented, she was magnetic. People were naturally drawn to her. Friends often said she was the life of every party, someone who lifted spirits without even trying. As she grew older, she poured that energy into dancing, eventually joining a performance group called the Salsa Machine. It wasn't glamorous or easy, but it gave her the chance to do what she loved most, perform in front of an audience. At just 20 years old, Ginger met 34-year-old Mark Hollinger. The age difference raised some eyebrows at first, but Mark brought her happiness. He balanced her fiery energy with calm steadiness. Over time, Ginger's parents came to see how much she cared for him, and they welcomed him into their family. Soon, the two were married and began planning for the future. They had recently moved into a new home and were dreaming of buying it. Ginger wanted stability, a house, a family, and the chance to build a life with Mark. But those dreams needed practical steps like improving their credit score. That small, everyday concern would lead Ginger into a store one afternoon in April 1997. A simple decision, the kind anyone might make, would place her directly in harm's path. Vanishing at Spycraft on April 4, 1997, Ginger and Mark drove together with a simple plan in mind. They wanted to stop at a bookstore and pick up a guide on how to improve their credit score. Buying their home was important to them, and Ginger, always determined, insisted on finding answers the old-fashioned way, through books. As they made their way down Maryland Parkway, something unusual caught their attention: a shop called Spycraft. It wasn't your average store. With its surveillance cameras, trackers, and shelves of odd gadgets, it seemed like a place from a movie. Curious, Ginger decided to step inside while Mark waited outside in the car. For Mark, it was supposed to be a quick stop. Ginger had only taken her wallet, leaving her purse behind. She promised to be back in a minute or two, but those minutes dragged on and she never returned. Mark grew restless. He had a clear view of the entrance and knew without doubt that Ginger had not come out. His worry grew into frustration, and finally he went inside. He approached the owners, John Flowers and his wife Cheryl, and asked if they'd seen his wife. To Mark's disbelief, John calmly told him that Ginger had already purchased a book and left the store some time ago. Mark was stunned. He knew that couldn't be true. He had been right outside the whole time, watching. Determined, he searched the aisles himself, but there was no trace of Ginger. Confused and uneasy, Mark left the store and called Ginger's father, George. At first, George tried to calm him down, suggesting Ginger may have slipped into a nearby shop. But hours passed, and still there was no sign of her. It became clear that something was terribly wrong. By nightfall, both Mark and George returned to Spycraft, searching for answers. Neither could have known that Ginger's fate had already been sealed within those walls. The truth revealed: for days, the Rios family and investigators searched desperately for answers. At first, suspicion fell on Mark, as it often does in missing persons cases. Detectives noted that he didn't call police right away, choosing instead to phone Ginger's father. They also found it strange that, only a few days later, Mark's car mysteriously caught fire. To police, it looked like evidence being destroyed, but after intense questioning, nothing tied Mark directly to Ginger's disappearance. His story held up, and there was simply no proof that he was involved. With Mark ruled out, investigators turned their focus back to the one place Ginger had last been seen alive, Spycraft. The shop itself raised more questions than answers. When detectives finally searched the store, they noticed a strong smell of bleach in the back room. On the wall was a faint red stain. The store owner, John Flowers, brushed it off, claiming it was caused by his dog and that he had cleaned the room. The explanation sounded suspicious, but in 1997, forensic tools were limited. The stain was too small to test, and without evidence, the police had little to act on. John also claimed Ginger had paid for a book and left the store, yet when asked for surveillance footage and receipts, he failed to provide either. The case seemed to hit a dead end until months later, when John's wife, Cheryl, came forward. By then, the couple had separated, and Cheryl finally revealed the secret she had been holding back in fear. She told police that she had discovered Ginger's body in the back of the store the very day she vanished. John had warned her to keep quiet, threatening her and their baby if she spoke. According to Cheryl, John had attacked Ginger from behind, leaving her lifeless on the floor. Later, Cheryl witnessed him loading Ginger's body into a van, hiding the truth in plain sight. Her confession changed everything. Now, the suspicion that had hovered over Mark for so long was finally lifted, and the true monster behind Ginger's disappearance was revealed. Justice and aftermath. With Cheryl's testimony, investigators finally had the breakthrough they needed. She led them to the Arizona desert, where John, whose real name was Craig Leslie Jacobson, had buried Ginger's body encased in concrete. When police uncovered the remains, tests confirmed what the Rios family already feared: it was 20-year-old Ginger. For months, her loved ones had lived in agony, clinging to hope. Now they had an answer, but it was the cruelest one possible. The discovery opened the door for authorities to search Spycraft again. This time, they found Ginger's DNA in the back room, confirming Cheryl's chilling account. But Craig wasn't easy to capture. He fled across state lines, hiding under different names. His past revealed a long history of fraud, burglary, and disturbing behavior toward young women. Eventually, he was caught in Los Angeles after an altercation with police. Facing mounting evidence, Craig confessed to Ginger's murder. He tried to plead insanity, but psychologists noted he was faking mental illness in hopes of escaping a heavy sentence. Prosecutors initially aimed for the death penalty, but in the end, Craig accepted a plea deal. He admitted guilt, agreed to pay restitution to Ginger's family, and was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. For the Rios family, justice felt incomplete. Ginger's dreams of performing, of building a family, were gone forever. Her mother, Denise, carried that grief until her own passing years later. Her father, George, and sister, Daniela, were left to keep Ginger's memory alive, always haunted by what she endured. Though justice was served in court, nothing could return what had been stolen: a vibrant young woman with her whole life ahead of her. Ginger became yet another name in a tragic list of lives lost to a predator who should have been stopped long before. Thank you for watching this true crime documentary on the case of Ginger Rios. Her story reminds us how quickly ordinary moments can turn into tragedy, and how one person's silence can hide the darkest truths. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's free and ensures you never miss future cases we cover. Now, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe Cheryl should have come forward sooner, even if it meant risking her own safety? Could that choice have changed Ginger's fate? Share your thoughts in the comments below.